Hi everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success, and in our current climate, maximize safety while providing people with fresh food. Farmers markets are essential. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer or food maker selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast. On today's episode of Tent Talk, we're catching up as we head into fall and answering questions from our Farmers Market Pros community and members. Hey everyone, I'm one of your hosts, Bridget Myers, and I've spent years as an on-site farmers market manager, and I am the education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Kat Fields-White, Director of San Diego Markets, still an active farmers market manager, perhaps more active than I had expected this year, actually, and founder of Farmers Market Pros, host of the Farmers Market Pros community and membership program.
And I'm co-host Justine Marzoni-Mead, Tent Talk producer, and I finally think I figured out my title. Or this is what it says on the website, that I'm marketing director for Farmers Market Pros.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Oh,
I like
it. Took us
it.
a long time to find the perfect info booth lady. You didn't want that to be
Yeah.
your business card.
I was just thinking that the other day. We got to talk to Justine about that info booth lady thing. There's got to be a better word. At the very least, we're going to make her a marketeer, like the rest of us.
It's descriptive. Yeah. It is what you do, but you do so much more. So that's good.
So much more.
Marketing director. Welcome back to Tent Talk, everyone. We are catching up on listener questions today. And I love that because I love these roundtable episodes. We used to do more of these in our early Tent Talk days. And we thought we'd bring them back because we get so many different questions that could be talked about kind of quickly. So just kind of rapid fire these off in one episode, which is always fun. Yeah, as a listener, I like it when podcasts that I listen to do this because it's like a lot of info in one shot.
And you kind of trick people into listening to it because you don't know what they're going to cover.
Oh, yeah. It's a surprise.
And then you make vendors listen to things for market managers and vice versa. And everybody kind of
everyone should
gets
be doing.
a holistic approach.
I love it.
You know what everybody on the other side of the tent is up to.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so listen up, everyone.
So
What else is going on?
we can talk about school starting. It's fall. Isn't that weird? It's September. How did this happen?
Isn't it technically after Labor Day?
Oh, maybe. How did Labor Day get so late?
Oh, schools just keep starting earlier and earlier.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Oh.
Don't get
All
me
right.
started. Just kidding. I don't have that strong of an opinion about it.
Yeah, how was your first week of being a virtual proctor?
First couple of days so far.
Yeah, it's just
Right?
been a first couple. Well, my kindergartner has half an hour of school every day, so it's not really. And then he's just watching YouTube like he did all summer. I'm just kidding. No, not. But it's good. It's kind of weird. I thought I was like really anxious about it, but it seems to be going really well. It's really sweet. Little kindergarten on Zoom. I feel like the kids, at least my kid, and they kind of ebb and flow, but kids have a good way of like kind of seeing through the chaos and like finding the good parts of it, and they aren't really as stressed, it feels like, as a lot of the parents. I know every kid is different, but my kids are pretty chill. My middle schooler is like, what's the problem? I love computers. He's like, what's wrong? He's like, what's the issue?
What's the big deal?
Yeah,
What's the rules?
He's like, I'll just do school on the computer. Why not? So, I mean, he misses his friends and stuff, but yeah, I have a 6th grader and a kindergartner, and it's going fine.
And then how about the college girl?
Oh, and then my college student, you'd think that'd be easier.
But no.
Just kidding. She doesn't listen to this podcast, so I can say it. But yeah, she's at home. She's working the front desk at a dorm sometimes, so yikes. But her school is, she's at San Diego State, and I don't know what they're doing over there. Some frats are having parties and stuff, but I heard that a lot of the kids are behaving. She said a lot of the kids, like all the kids are wearing masks and stuff in the dorm, and she feels safe when she's there, but who knows?
Wow.
Because she's 18, so I don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, hard to say. I
Yeah.
do feel like that would be one of the hardest ages to be
Yeah.
going through this. Because
Yeah.
you're ready to kind
Yeah.
of spread your wings and go be independent and all that. And then it's like, no, you got to move home now.
Oh, it's so sad because it's like her first year of college and like being an adult, and then she said rush home, and we thought it was going to be for like a couple weeks, and then it was like, nope, go get all your stuff and say bye to your roommate who's like your best friend, and she has to go back home, which is not local, and yeah, it's just rough. So all her friends came back, and her old roommate from last year came back and is living off campus, so just doing those little distance gatherings in the park and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, at least she's available now to be a volunteer at the farmers market.
Yes,
That's right.
She's suddenly occurred to us one day that she should be volunteering at the market. Why not? She's a grown-up. She's doing a great job. She's
She is
recruiting
doing a
her
good job.
college friends.
Yeah,
and
she's
it's great.
transformed our volunteer program.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yes, my daughter used to sell popsicles at the market when she was 12.
That's
she
true.
worked for a vendor. It was so cute.
It was.
So
That was
she's
funny.
back at her old...
Was she even 12? I feel like she was littler.
Maybe just a little bit before she was 12.
Yeah.
And it was before braces, so I have lots of pictures of her looking real good out there.
I'm sure she has them plastered all over her dorm room.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Looking good.
No.
Wants everyone to see. So
So
she's
for
back.
other people doing virtual schooling, I mean, I wonder how that's affecting especially weekday markets. I know
yeah.
that we've seen some of our vendors that used to do a few weekday markets and then a weekend market, and now they're only doing weekends because they have to deal with virtual schooling during the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad my market that I'm working all the time now is just Saturdays because I wouldn't be able to do it like working on site, or I mean, some parents are putting their kids in learning pods or they have family that can help. And so there might be other arrangements that people are making, but it's just tough for every industry for parents to try to work and be home with their kids that are schooling. And, farmers markets are no different because it's an on-site job. So plus all the working at home.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know what people are doing. I don't know what
And
farmers
maybe
are doing.
Some markets may be busier on the week during the week if
Oh, that could be because
you could
people are
bring your
flexible.
kid to the market in the
That's
middle of the
true.
day and it's
Yeah.
something to do.
That's true because you're working at home, and so you're not stuck in the office. You have time to
Yeah.
take your kids and teach them math by figuring out
Counting
your.
apples.
That's right, counting apples and making
Yeah.
making change, making sure you get the right change.
Yeah. So like opportunity there and also challenges. Yeah. So we'll kind of see how it
As
goes.
life is now.
As life is. And
Opportunities and challenges.
It's not specific to farmers market people, but just all working parents out there right now whose kids can't go to schools. But also there are schools that are open.
That's true.
We have a vendor at our market on Saturday and his daughter goes to a private school. So San Diego public school system here has said no in-person classes, but private schools and charter schools can apply for waivers. And so his daughter goes to school during the day.
And there's a lot of people around the country. I mean, there's plenty of school systems where they're open. I'm seeing other people that I know in farmers market manager groups, and people that friends and relatives whose kids are going to school live and in person in distanced ways, or in some areas not really that different than before.
I don't even want to look at those pictures of those high school hallways, but sometimes it's working because they're just being really safe and things are safe there. And our vendor was telling me he thinks it's great because his wife can work and he can do his work during the week to prepare for his weekday markets, and his daughter feels good and they feel good about the safety there. But if there's an issue at the school and it has to shut back down, then the parents are left kind of like once again like scrambling to change their schedules.
Right.
And so that's just tough. It's hard to make a plan. Just the anxiety of it, like it could shut down at any minute, know. So
All over.
Hopefully not. I was just saying, I am feeling very optimistic these days. We'll see what could change tomorrow, but people are being, I don't know. I'd be like, everyone's being great. People are being safe, but maybe it's just because I've like turned off social media for a little bit in my own little bubble.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, I think, anybody who's feeling safe and comfortable and relaxed just isn't paying attention.
I mean, I'm feeling safe, but I'm still not going out
Ignorance
anywhere.
is bliss.
I'm just feeling safe in my house, not going anywhere. So
That's right. There we go.
There's that. Anyways.
So speaking of safety,
Yeah.
we have a question
Yes. Okay.
from a community member about
Actual
CPR, first aid, how much they should be providing at the market. Is CPR certification usually required? I think that's really individual to different communities. Our city actually requires the farmers market staffs have CPR certified people there, but many don't, I know. And it's actually relatively new here, and we're such a risk management kind of city that it's surprising it took them this long to get to it.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of places don't require it, but farmers market organizations may require it, your board may require it. It's certainly not a bad idea. And then they were also asking about what kind of first aid equipment and facilities and things should be on site. And I know that somebody had said they're in an area where it gets really hot, and so they have a trailer set up that has a fan and some kind of air in it and stocked with water and that kind of thing, because their biggest issue is heat exhaustion and dehydration issues, that kind of thing. We had some other folks that were talking about, having a really well-equipped first aid kit, bandages, tourniquets, that kind of thing.
Tourniquets. Oh my goodness, what's happening at this market?
I think he was concerned about like a big issue happening. For a while we were all really nervous about cars driving into markets and that kind of thing, and being prepared for that. Yeah, so all kinds of different levels of preparation there.
Yes.
It's funny when we're in our kind of area, California being what it is, we're all about don't paint a crosswalk on the ground because then you're liable if somebody steps into it and gets hit. Because we're so crazy here about not doing anything that would make you the responsible one.
Yeah.
That it's nerve-wracking. We, of course, now we've got CPR certified people, and we used to have an EMT that was on our staff that worked for us part-time because the markets were a happy place to be, unlike his job the rest of the week. So he was always on it when anybody, fell down or was having heat problems or whatever. And then our insurance carrier, of course, is like, just call 911. Don't touch them. Yeah. So it's such an odd quandary trying to decide, find that line between helping and getting yourself in trouble. It's a weird world.
It's like The Incredibles, that movie where the Incredibles keep getting sued because they're saving people, but they're like saving them from a train track accident, but they like broke his leg, saving him, and then they sue him. It's like that kind of thing. Every time someone's like needs a little, attention at the market, I'm like, well, do I want to help him or am I going to hurt more? And then he's going to like sue me. So it's just sad.
So you're saying farmers market managers and staffs are like cartoon superheroes? I
are.
see that.
Oh.
I do see those parallels.
I do feel like that. Yes.
But it's also a thing to think about is that there's a lot of people at work at the farmers market, and people might cut their fingers slicing up samples,
right.
or things happen when you're at work, and so it is important to have those resources on hand. So maybe if you are a farmers market manager and you are concerned about having first aid kit stuff on hand, maybe that's a requirement that you can have your vendors have. That way at least you're protecting the people that work at the market.
Right.
Say like every vendor should have their own first aid kit in their booth.
Well, that's a good
if
idea.
They get hurt themselves.
Yeah.
And that way you can at least like.
That's smart to put in our guidelines. So I like that idea because I thought we were having this conversation in one of our membership groups, and one of the best suggestions I thought was, in addition to first aid equipment and Band-Aids and that kind of thing, one of the most important things to have is a plan. So he was saying we have a plan for, if anything major happens, this is the staff position that calls 911, and this is the staff position that tries to control traffic and give people an idea of exit points, and this is the staff person that's in charge of notifying the vendors to go into, Operation Red Zone.
Yeah. And I think that's really helpful because, we have to think outside of our own experience. We work in a very urban environment. There's literally dozens of businesses around. There's hundreds of people on hand at all point. But if you're working in a rural market where you know that it's going to take an ambulance 10, 15 minutes to get to you, you need to make sure that you have like a clear, this is the emergency person who's going to dial 911 if something's going down, or these are people that are trained that could help out before an emergency worker can get there.
Right.
Yeah, and some basic training is not that hard to come by. I mean, like getting a defibrillator, I know like it seems intimidating to people, but being trained to use that could really help somebody and like add minutes to like life-saving measures. So I feel like having that kind of plan and just getting your staff like, caught up on that kind of like, what is the plan? Like who's in charge of what? And in current conditions, are we giving people CPR or are we afraid of COVID? Like, let's talk about it, but like, let's talk about it. Like, listen, and maybe ask a health professional. Like, ask somebody in the field. Like, you can talk to EMTs. You can contact people and be like, look, we're trying to make a plan right now, but we know that we shouldn't be, like, touching people all the time. Like, when's the level of, like, we need to get over that to do this, Yeah,
that's a good point.
That's a really good question.
Also, I know that this was listed in the Farmers Market Pros community where this question was asked, but there are other, like, first responder and different EMT people that may want to volunteer their time and, maybe you are a first responder and you're trained in CPR or infant CPR or the Heimlich maneuver, all those different things. And you love farmers markets and you just want to volunteer once a month to be at the market. That's another way that you can pull in community members that, want to help out in different ways. And just somebody is there every Saturday or whatever day of the week it is just to hopefully nothing ever happens, but
like when we had our staffer that was EMT, it just made it
was a comfort level.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we had like a security team for a little while at the market. group was
well,
that?
live safe.
Yeah, Live Well, Live Safe. I kind of like them actually. But one of the guys was like, I love farmers markets so much. And I was like, please assign me to this job. And he's like, I love it here. And he's like, I'll help you if there's an emergency. But I love just walking around and being here. So, there's those people exist. Like people want to come out and help. So that's a great kind of thought about it if you need extra help there.
It is.
Yeah.
I miss those guys. Anyways, separate question.
Good question.
Yeah, that was a really good question. It's a good thing to think about now too,
So this next question is sort of related. You have to really stretch to get these connections.
Yeah,
but-
Tell me. They don't have to be related.
Where are we
but
going with this?
Tell me how you tied this
say
in.
you have somebody who's volunteering for you that's an EMT or a CPR person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, it's a stretch.
and like many volunteer situations, you want to give them a little something, little boost, little perk. And so you're going to give them market money, which we give to our volunteers. See how I'm connecting all this?
And Kat, what do you mean by market money?
You don't need to connect it. Yeah. What do you mean by yes?
So market money. So this actually ties into a question that we got asked in the Farmers Market Pros community about how do you issue, how do you manage, how do you deal with market-wide gift certificates? And in our markets, we call it market money. And we use it for things like giving a little boost to our volunteers to show them our appreciation for coming out. We give them to charity events, so school fundraisers,
Raffles.
silent auctions, that kind of stuff. Yeah, a lot of times for a silent auction, we'll give a little shopping bag that's got some market goodies in it and then some market monies, which induces people to come out to the market and buy more when they run out of that thing that they loved that was in their gift bag. So there's a lot of ways to do market money. When back in the day, that most of our market vendors didn't take cards, and I'm sure there's some areas where that's still the case. At some of our markets, there was no ATM nearby, and we didn't want to send people down the street to use their ATM card to get cash to come back to the market. So what we did was manage what was really a virtual ATM. They could swipe their card in our booth, and we would give them market money. And they were little $1 and $5 cards that they could use at any vendor. And then at the end of the day, the vendors would bring that money to the booth and we'd exchange it for cash. So there's a lot of uses for market-wide gift certificates, whether they're as gift certificates or spiffs or however you want to use them. So the question was, how do you manage that? And if you've done EBT or SNAP, I think it's really similar. You're just giving out those cards and they can use it at any vendor, and then the vendor trades it in with you for cash. Usually with gift certificates, you do give change, unlike EBT, so that's a little bit different. And then he was asking about security. How do you keep people from just knocking them off? And I think you just make the design complicated enough that you can't just easily copy it. We usually print it on something like a business card blank.
It's like cardstock.
Yeah,
Cardstock.
specific.
We have them printed a lot of times with rounded corners and things that just aren't as really easy to duplicate. And then if you're really worried about it, if you're doing a big quantity of them and you're worried about security, there's printers, there's a number of printers that are quick online printing places where call them tickets when you get them printed, and you can have them printed with sequential numbering on them. And that way you can really track them if you feel, I don't think I'd sit down and match up the numbers every night, but if there seemed to be a problem, well, and honestly, we laugh, but we actually did have somebody counterfeit some years ago at one of our markets. It was crazy.
Jeez.
And
That's
once
when we
we
were
looked
printing
at
it
it,
on
it was a little
paper,
off,
though.
but the reason that we caught it was, the numbers coming in terms of how many we were selling versus how many we were redeeming was a little bit off. And then when we started looking at it, we found that we had a whole stack that all had the same number. So they had apparently just picked up one and then had those duplicated and when we're doing them. So, you can lock it down at that point and say, okay, we're going to issue a whole new number series, and anybody that turns up with this old number is going to have to come trade them in. And so you can manage it like that. I'd like to say that I think most people are not going to counterfeit farmers market money, but who knows?
Who knows?
You
We're
never
having a
know.
wild time.
It's a
Yeah.
wild time. People, desperate
Remember
measures.
we used to see counterfeit money at the market a lot, and we thought
Yeah.
that has got to be just the worst karma in the world. Like, if you're going to counterfeit stuff, go, use it at Best Buy. Sorry, Best Buy. Sorry, nothing personal. But I just mean at a farmer's market where you're face to face with the person who's making a living on that, and you're going to give them counterfeit money. Just ugh.
Yeah.
Like a farmer that grew his
Yuck.
little cucumbers, and you're going to give him a fake bill.
Yeah. Ugh.
You got something coming, buddy.
Right. That's just bad.
Not
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so market-wide gift certificates are an awesome thing. They're a great way to promote the market in your community. Again, they can be used as a virtual ATM thing. That's handy, and they're great for volunteers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a good way to just pump some more income into the market for your farmers and vendors.
That's why I love it for volunteers,
Yeah.
is because, we're not really paying them, but we give them those, and then that goes right back around into better sales for our farmers and vendors. So it's, everybody's happy. Our volunteers we have people that contact us and say, can I volunteer this Saturday? Because I really need tomatoes and flowers.
Yeah. And it's great. And then they get to know the vendors and
Yeah.
farmers so well. And then they can have, good conversations with customers that are there asking for,
Totally.
where do you grab lunch when you're at the market? Like, what do you get to go? Which farmer has your favorite produce? Who has the flowers that you buy for your house? And the volunteers can actually speak from experience because they're using their market money to go buy stuff for themselves.
And one thing that I think is important to know, as we have been having more volunteers at our market, and so we've been using our market money more, is just making sure that however you do it, however you set it up, that there is that vendor education, that you're really clear with vendors. We recently, this last Saturday, had a vendor that kind of refused to take it.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't allowed to take EBT.
Yeah.
And so he looked at those and said, I don't take those.
Yeah, he was confused between the EBT market bucks and the market
and the volunteer
money.
was
And the volunteer, bless their heart, they are new and they are just a volunteer, so they weren't able to educate the vendor, and we just kind of had to tell them, this is the difference between them. You can redeem these for cash, you can give change for these. And so if you are going to be using market-wide gift certificates, just make sure that your vendors understand what they are, make sure they know what they look like, because some vendors are new and they just never seen them before, and they're like, what does this mean, or how do I redeem this? So just make sure that you let your vendors know how to use them.
That's important.
And if your vendors are at multiple markets use different kind of, they have WIC checks, they have EBT, they have their own kind of gift certificates. So I think the vendors and the employees certainly that aren't getting all the emails and stuff from market managers are just so confused. So I usually do a
flyer.
Yeah, I do a flyer, and I have an actual picture of what the cards look like, and I'm like, this is market money. You have to give change in cash for this. You have to accept this. It can be used at any booth. This is EBT. Do not accept this if you have hot food. Just kind of spell it out for them, and then it just makes that kind of transaction a lot more smooth for whoever's using it.
And then the other side of that is you need to be sure and train your staff and make them understand that even though these are cute little purple cards, they actually translate to real dollars, and we have to, when we balance at the end of the day, it's not monopoly money. The vendor's going to bring this back at the end of the day, and we're going to have to give them real U.S. currency, and that's going to affect our budget. So even though they're cute and they're fun and we're giving them away to a lot of people, you've got to track them. You've got to know how many are going out and how many are coming in, and they are just another form of money.
Yeah. Don't just be passing them out.
Take
them some home with you because they're cute.
Yeah,
but that's a great question, because I feel like not all markets use gift certificates, and they don't realize what a great tool it can be. And vendors and farmers alike, you should be accepting those, because that vendor that wouldn't accept it last week, that was confused, I mean, that volunteer might not ever go get food from him again with her market money, and she might not it might not float to the top to recommend his food to people who ask her. So having those good relationships with people around the market money, that can really help you get that word of mouth marketing with people that are using it.
I think also right now, in these COVIDian times, as Chris Quinlan would say,
As Mr. Quinlan would say.
I know that personally, I've wanting to support local business, I've just bought a bunch of gift certificates recently in the hopes that one day I'll be able to go use them in person. I bought a deposit for a tattoo parlor that I want to visit later on. I bought some gift certificates for restaurants I like to visit, and I think that's another great way to reach out to your community and say, hey, if somebody can't visit right now, or if somebody out of state really loves that market and wants to support them, they can buy a gift certificate and give that money to somebody that lives local. It's just another point in which you can, collect money for your market.
Yeah, it's a good fundraising opportunity.
Yeah, and I think it's just, if you can pull it together, it's another great option, another way to have some more revenue coming in.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you're doing a market membership kind of program, which I know we're going to do a whole episode on soon, that could be a part of your market membership where you get $5 in market money.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's basically $5, but it's like, you feel special because it's like, oh, I'm going to use this at the market and support my favorite vendor or farmer that day.
Yeah.
So
so many good things you can do with market.
Oh, I'm glad we got that question.
Yeah,
we've been doing it for so long. I feel like we were in the first markets that started using them kind of locally around here. I don't even think of it as like a special thing, but then people are always telling us like, oh, this is so great. So I'm glad we should really like. I don't know. I feel like I should talk about it more with other market
post
managers.
on social media.
Yeah, because you don't think about it since we don't have like a way to swipe. Like you're not going to get a gift card because there's nowhere for vendors to like swipe that. You know what I'm saying? So you have to kind of think outside the box.
Yeah.
Think a little bit more analog.
That's right. Analog, organic. That's
going back.
Yeah. Well, people at farmers markets like that. We're the high touch versus the high tech, right?
That's right. All right. How are you going to tie that into our next question? Because I know
I'm going to jump down one.
Oh, okay. Because it's more related.
Yeah, and I'm doing that because Justine gave me a hint. She pointed.
Right.
But because we did have a question about SNAP and EBT.
Yeah.
And so. Kind of similar in terms of managing your script and all that, but they were asking how you make SNAP users feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. And then we had a different question in a completely different conversation about, hey, can I use somebody's SNAP card from another state?
Yeah.
And the very quick answer to that one is yes. If you got a SNAP card, you can use that anywhere in the country. But we just wanted to refer those folks back. We did a fairly recent episode number 98, where we talked a lot about using SNAP and EBT, how to make people feel comfortable, how to make sure your vendors make people feel comfortable, how to manage it.
Yeah.
So you can go back to episode 98 on temptalkpodcast.com or wherever you listen to podcasts, and that covers all of that.
Yes. Yeah, someone brought their card from Michigan or somewhere on Saturday, and everyone was very confused about why they could use it. And I just explained, like, that's a federal program.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and they were like, oh, I didn't know. Like, it feels like a state program, because you're probably going to whatever office to get it. But, it's a federal program. So even if it says your state on it, you can use it everywhere. Like, you can drive in another state with your California driver's license, like that kind of thing. So that's great, which is great. And how to make SNAP users feel comfortable at the market.
We talk about that in episode 98 as well.
Yeah. Which is important.
All right.
I love our SNAP customers, actually.
So here's one that's interesting. And actually, we've had personal experience with this not too long ago. So you get a farmer or a vendor who's been out for a while with all this COVIDian adventure going on. Really, I love that word. I'm just going to go with that now.
COVIDian.
So markets have been weird. Markets were closed a little bit in some areas, or they opened late. And then when they did open, some farmers and vendors came back and some didn't for a variety of reasons. Some of our farmers and vendors didn't come back because they honestly were scared. They just didn't want to come do that face-to-face business with all those people. Mm-hmm. Others maybe had somebody medically fragile in their household, and so they needed to be extra cautious. Some of them had somebody who was sick or somebody who was staying home to be cautious, and that meant that their staffing opportunities were changed and they just didn't have enough people to do all the markets they were doing. So for whatever reason, some of them got quickly into, a box program where their stuff was being delivered, or they were developing a CSA, and so they were giving that a try. Did deliveries themselves. Yeah. So people did a lot of different options. For us, when we reopened the markets and we weren't closed for too long, most of our folks came back, but we definitely had people that had decided that it felt safer to do a delivery program as opposed to being at the markets. So it's been all kinds of different reactions. But so now we've been open for a long time. I think people have finally, the pandemic isn't over because we're over it, but it is getting into a routine. It seems like we're all kind of figuring out what to do. And so now we're seeing some farmers and vendors ready to come back that have been out for a while. Mm-hmm. So what do you do when you have a farmer or vendor that has been with you for a long time, maybe years, and they're ready to come back and they want to slide back into their old spot? I mean, we've got plenty of episodes that talk about how vendors are highly agitated if you move them 10 feet.
Yes.
So they want to come back and they want to slide into their own spot. But, this is 8, 10, 12 weeks later, and you have another farmer or vendor that's been in that spot now for the last 8 or 10 or 12 weeks. So your former, long gone and now returned prodigal farmer or vendor says, I need to be in that spot so my customers can find me. Well, the customers of that spot are now not yours. Now they're this other guy who's been in there for all this time.
There's different customers,
How do you deal with that? It's all very tricky.
It's very tricky, and I feel like there's so many different kind of things that could be going on around it, and maybe sometimes that would work where you could say, oh, okay, like, yeah, it makes more sense to move the person who went in your spot over here, and they wouldn't mind, and it would be fine, and the customers would figure it out. And then sometimes it's like,
that's not really fair.
that farm's been working hard this whole time, and they came out and they supported the market by being there, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Tough.
So
Yeah.
this one we're asking the question, and I don't think we're going to come to an answer. I think that's a really case by case, shades of gray kind of thing.
I think also you could argue the point is, at least in our market since COVID, the whole market looks different.
Yeah.
It's like nobody
Exactly.
really is in their regular spot anyway.
Yeah.
And the shoppers have gone through this whole re-education of how to shop the market. And
Because you're going one direction now.
People aren't
Yeah.
shopping the way that they used to. So I think that, if you want to sit down with that vendor and explain, like, look, it's kind of arbitrary at this point because people aren't shopping the way that they were 7 months ago. The market doesn't look the same. The market's not the same. And people's needs are different. Maybe
Right.
now they're going to Costco once a month and then coming and supplementing at the farmer's market, or people's just habits are different. So I think that although, as a vendor, you do get attached to your little swatch of pavement or whatever that you are in every week, but things are just different now, and it's not like that space is the same.
Right.
Yeah, as farmers market managers, I feel like we try to understand, because I don't know what it's like to have a booth in the same spot. I mean, we have our info booth, but I don't know, like, and your customers maybe are telling you constantly, like, oh, I hope you don't move because I'll never find you. Like, you never know what the customers are saying. And you might have a farmer whose customers are saying, like, oh, I came to the market once and I went to the spot where I saw you 8 months ago and you weren't there. Oh my God. But it's like one customer said that about it's, you have to kind of take a bigger picture of it. But I think just thinking about, hey, it's kind of good to mix it up. We always say that, like, it's good for business to put things in different places because you'll see different faces. And now you'll see different faces anyways because people are
mixed up.
It's so, it's such a different way to shop.
You can't even see their face.
Yeah,
There's that. There's that on top of it. Yeah. I wonder if that's part of the element when a farmer says, oh, my customers tell me they can't find me because I'm not in the same space I used to be. I mean, I wonder how many people aren't finding the farmers they used to go to, or think they're not finding the farmers they used to go to because they can't see their faces.
I bet that definitely plays into it, and because people who are shopping the market, a lot of times they'll come to the info booth and be like, hey, like, is this farmer here? Like, it's a dude that looks like this, and like they don't know the name of the farm.
No, yeah.
And most of the time, unless they're an educated shopper that knows what's in season, they don't even know what the farmer sells. They're just looking for that person.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of farmers are a bit older. They might be sending a younger person to the
That's
market.
true.
So like so much has changed that, like I said, I think that shoppers are just adapting, and so vendors need to be able to adapt too.
Yeah, I would say vendors and farmers, like, increase your signage. Make sure your signage is really clear. If you have a booth that's working, try not to change it up so much so people can, like, find a familiar place. Usually when customers ask me, like, when we're trying to break it down, I'm trying to, like, I want to find who you're talking about.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's a dude. He has brown hair and he wears jeans. I'm like, okay, you got to give me a little bit more.
What's he sell?
And like, what's he sell? Fruits and veggies. I'm like, okay. I'm like, what's his tablecloth look like? Because it's like, we know how the vendors are setting up their booths. So I usually go, like, what kind of tent does he have? Like, what kind of tablecloth? And usually we kind of narrow it down. Is his stuff in baskets? Does he have chalkboard signs? Like, what? Let's figure it out. But, I mean, just trying to make yourself look really familiar to your customers. And maybe your customers are shopping with you, but you're used to seeing their faces.
That's true. So,
And it's like, I mean, I saw a customer last Saturday, and she was like, oh, hey, Bridget, because we wear huge name tags so that people can recognize us because we have our faces covered. And I'm like, oh, hey. And she's like, yeah, I come here every week. And I'm like, I haven't seen you. And she's like, yeah, I've seen you. And I've walked by and waved, and you waved back because I just wave at everybody. And I'm like, oh, that's so funny. Like, I didn't even realize it was her, so I feel like maybe vendors and farmers are seeing a lot of their regular customers. They just don't realize it.
They're missing each other,
Yeah, and it's
Doesn't
hard to talk.
Farm wife Annie at Sylvan Aqua Farm seem like the biggest genius in the world
The
right
smartest.
now with those pink egg cartons?
The smartest. I saw a picture on their stories today where they were talking about something else, but there was a picture of them at the market with the hot pink egg cartons, and every time I see it, I'm like,
So
that's
smart.
so smart,
Yeah.
so recognizable, because if someone's looking for you and they ask the market manager, I'm looking for that one farmer that has the hot pink egg cartons, it's
Everybody's
like,
going
you're
to
gonna
know who that is.
Yeah,
Mask or
exactly.
no mask.
Yeah.
Easy to find.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So clever.
Yeah, and one other thing for this vendor is like, maybe those customers are buying things from other farmers.
Well, and see, I think that's part of what's happened too is, and I had to explain to one farmer, I said, when you were gone for 12 weeks, some of those people I'm sure have developed other habits at this point. Now they've been introduced to a farmer that they might not have gone to.
Which is kind of a cool thing. It's a bummer for that farmer that wasn't there, but it's cool for other farmers to be able to experience that new customer, and for those customers to kind of like branch out and talk to other people that
see
are
some
working
other
at the
farmers.
market. Yeah.
And the other good thing is, and part of that conversation was that, you don't have to rely on just your old customers, because interestingly, there are some people that aren't coming to farmers markets now that used to, because they're concerned about being out in public. But there's also a whole bunch of people coming to farmers markets now that never did before, either because their grocery store supply chains are weird in their area, or they've been getting a CSA box because they didn't want to go out and they found out how much better farm fresh stuff tastes, and so now they're coming to the farmers market. Restaurants are closed, so people are cooking more, so there's more people out shopping for fresh food. So even if maybe you are missing a few of your old customers because they've made new habits, probably not because you're in a different space, but for whatever reason, you're not seeing some of your old, some of your old customers. I bet you got a bunch of new customers. So you just need to kind of focus on that.
Yeah. So just kind of having that conversation with them, and it's kind of case by case, but really explaining like there's customers to go around. So hopefully that's enough of an answer. We're still working on that too, but I feel like we've found some creative solutions with that.
It's a hard one, especially if it's a vendor you really love and you have a really long relationship with them. You don't want that to sour, but everyone has to just be flexible right now.
Right.
Yeah, and if it's a beloved farmer, I mean, you just really have to say, look, your stuff is really great. You will get
people are going to find
customers,
you.
And they're going to find you, and other people are going to say, wow, this is great. It's not like you're down the street from the market. You're still in the market. Like, people are going to find you. You have great produce. Don't worry. Like,
well, and this is a good time too to suggest to that farmer, remind them that them using their Instagram and social media and things to tell people that they're back at the market is really important.
Very vital.
So, so some of the people that say, "Oh, my customers are missing me," I go back and I look at their Instagram or whatever, and they're not even mentioning that they've come back to the market. So give people some help.
And that's something market managers can do too. Post it on your social media. Just be like, this farmer's back.
We do a lot of that.
We do a lot of that, especially when like some people have been asking for a long time come back. I make sure to be like, look, they're back. You guys have been asking for them. Here they are.
Here they are.
But don't forget about the other people you've been shopping with this whole time.
So we have a few more questions, but it's gotten kind of long already. And we love Roundtable, so let's do this again in a few weeks.
We're going to save it for the
next
next
roundtable. We have some good ones, too.
Yeah,
we do. Meanwhile, before we go, we're tiptoeing into conference season now. It's starting a slow run-up.
Feels appropriate because school is starting and getting in the education mood.
Education's coming up. A lot of them are in the spring, but there's a good strong bunch that are also in the fall here. And coming up first is the Tennessee Association of Farmers Markets annual meeting, which is next week, September 15th, 16th, and 17th. And the cool thing about virtual conferences. I mean, typically we wouldn't all be running off to Tennessee to go attend their meeting, but since it's all online now, they are making it open to anyone who wants to register for an individual membership in the Tennessee Association of Farmers Markets, and
I love it.
It's $25. So even if you're not ever going to do anything else with them, 3 days of education for $25, really good deal.
3 days of entertainment for only $25.
Exactly right.
You never know what you're going to learn, though. I feel like this is the thing where it's like, Tennessee, like, if that's way far away from where you are right now, like, oh, what am I going to learn? Oh, these are like the conferences where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I almost didn't sign up for that.
Yeah,
also, these guys are pros.
Yeah.
Oh, they're wonderful. Yeah, they do such a good job. And in next week's meeting and online education, they have a session the first day on online markets, how to set those up, and advantages, disadvantages, what kind of platforms they're using. The 17th is a session on agritourism and markets and how you fit people staying on your farm with your farmers markets. And honestly, in this particular season of COVID, I'm not sure how all that's working because I don't know how agritourism is going, but I'm going to be interested in sitting in on that session. I need to tune in to find out. Figure out. And then in the middle, between those two, on the 16th, I'm talking. So I'll be speaking on Wednesday, September 16th on establishing a Vendor 101 program at your market. What the advantages are for both for market managers and for brand new vendors.
Can hear Kat speak for less than $25. That's the deal. Gotta jump on it.
Right? Go for it.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I'm so excited.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
so that's coming up.
out. Yeah, we love them. All right. Well, we will continue our roundtable episodes. We'll kind of mix them in with our other episodes we have coming up. A lot of really great interviews coming up, and just continuing to cover what's going on in farmers markets. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Farmers markets are all about community, not just for the shoppers, but for the operators, farmers, and vendors. To hear what's happening from people just like you in the farmers market industry in various parts of the country, or share what's happening in your area, we have terrific conversations and people sharing resources over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. Please find us there, answer the 3 qualifying questions, and join the group. You can also message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros, or send us an email at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. To dig a little deeper and support new episodes and new content, join our new membership program by going to farmersmarketpros.com and click the support button in the top right corner, then click Become a Member. Thank you so much for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you access your podcasts, and tell us and others how you're enjoying Tent Talk. If you are listening on YouTube, give us that thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss our next episode. Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is proudly produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead.